So let's go back to selection mode. And the first thing that we need to do is obviously import a barrier. And we can get it from Fab. Fab is basically like a marketplace where you can get different assets from. We will use Fab a little bit more later. But now we can search for traffic barrier. If you'll search for traffic barrier and you will select the price as free, you will find a lot of different assets. And I will use this one because this is looking pretty great, I guess. And here we have a little preview of how this barrier will look like. And it's looking pretty nice. So let's just click add it to project, and that's all we need to do. We don't need to download it from anywhere because everything will be done automatically when we click add to project. And here we have a new folder called Fab, where we have this traffic barrier. But we don't want this traffic barrier to be inside this Fab folder. We can just move this to our 3D models. Move here, and now we have it in 3D models, traffic barrier. Right here we have textures and this mesh. So we can delete that empty Fab folder. Delete. Okay. And as I said in the previous video, I want to show you a procedural way of creating a barrier. So basically we will have a spline that we can extend however we want, and we will draw a circle with that spline, and then this spline will automatically place these barriers, and it will be super fast and it will look good. So in order to do that, we need to enable one small plugin. If you'll go to plugins and search for Procedural, I can type. Here we have Procedural Content Generation Framework, PCG. We need to enable that, and yes. And now we need to restart project. So let's just click restart now. And now we can actually start to create this barrier blueprint. So first of all, I will create a new folder in main folder, and it will be called PCG for Procedural Content Generation. Here we can create another folder called barrier. Open it up, and here we will create two things. The first one will be just a single blueprint class of an actor, so BP barrier. We can open it up, but we also need to create something called PCG graph. So let's just right click. Here we have new tab PCG, and we want to create PCG graph. And we will go with default empty graph. Now let's just click create empty graph, and we can name this PCG underscore barrier. Let's open it up. Before doing anything here, we want to go back to BP barrier, where we need to add one thing, a spline. So let's just add spline. This is just a regular spline, compile. And we also need to add PCG, this PCG component right here. Now we can compile, save, and here on this PCG, where we have this instance, we need to select our PCG barrier. And that's pretty much it for the BP barrier. The rest will be done inside this PCG. So let's go back here to this PCG barrier, and let's see what we can do. So as I said before, we want to spawn these meshes on the spline. So first we need to get spline data. When we get spline data, we don't need to change anything here, but from this out, we want to search for something like spline sampler. And this spline sampler, as you can see, generates points along the given spline and within the bounding shape of provided. Exactly what we're looking for. And here we have some settings to change. First of all, mode will not be subdivision, it will be distance, where we can manually enter the distance between the objects. So I will go for 180. Now, after the spline sampler, we need to transform these points. So transform points, And finally, we can use static mesh spawner to actually spawn these meshes. And now we can save everything. And here in this PCG barrier, we need to click on this static mesh spawner. Here we have mesh selector. We need to go to mesh entries, click plus icon, expand this and expand this. And here we can select our traffic barrier. And here where we have collision, we want to set it to block all because we don't want to get past this fence. But before spawning it, we need to go to transform points because this mesh is super big and we need to reduce its size. So on this transform points, we're going to set scale minimum and scale maximum to 0.01. And now this barrier will be scaled properly. Now, if we will finally go back to our level game and we will grab our BP barrier, we will move it somewhere, you can see that the barrier spawned. If we play from here, you can see it does have collision. We cannot go through this barrier. But now, how do we spawn probably hundreds of this mesh? We can just click on this little icon. This is our spline, and we can just move it. And as we move it, as we extend it, you can see that these meshes are spawning. And now you can see we can bend this however we want. We can do whatever shapes that we want with this spline. We can also add spline points however we want. And this will just give us more variation. We can also make these points a little bit smaller. And yeah, we can now play around with this however we want. So I will just click on this BP barrier and I will delete it completely because I want to start from here. So let's just grab this BP barrier, move it here. First of all, rotate it the correct way. And now we can click on this square and we can move it however we want. We can now click on the middle, add spline point here, and move it here. So this will be more rounded. And now with this simple spline, we can go over our entire level, rotate the spline, scale it, and do pretty much anything we want. So first of all, I will just block out the level however I want. I will right click here and add spline point. Now move this more here, extend it, move it somewhere here, click add spline point, which we will move like that. I'll move this here, click add spline point, scale it down a little bit. So I will keep the path shape here, add spline point, rotate this one, move him here actually, add spline points, and just go through the entire level. Just adding spline points and moving them around. And as the last point, we can just move them close enough to our last barrier, rotate it, move this even closer. Oh, I lost the point. It's right here. Move it a little bit closer, and yeah, it will look good. Now we will add a point here to expand this, and yeah, I think this looks pretty nice. But you can see that there are some places where the barrier is in the air, so we can just click on this right spline point and move it a little bit lower, so the barrier is in the ground a little bit, just like that. And so the height is perfect for our character so that he can't get past through these barriers. And if there's like a gap like it is right here, we can just select this point, move it here, and it will just spawn another barrier, and we can move this point like so, and it will just look better, infinitely better. Okay, so now this point is obviously too low, so move him higher. We can also rotate them this way to kind of fit them to the ground, and I think this looks pretty good. And yeah, just play around with these points, rotate them however you please. So just by using this spline, we are working way faster than we would normally. And here we have super straight line with no points, so we can add some points to make these barriers look properly, so they're not floating and they're not completely in the ground. And this is the last point, I guess. Working with splines is really easy and pretty quick because we did the entire fence in around 10 minutes, or maybe even less. It is way faster than placing every barrier manually. It will take forever. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. This is our game area blocked right now, so we cannot get past through these fences. And they are looking pretty good. They all have collisions, so we cannot walk through them. And that's exactly what we wanted.